Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Brownstone. I'm Paulette, and you are in the Brownstone Worldwide Studios. Today on Brownstone's Best Business Review, we are talking to one of our own neighbors. She's one of the people in the neighborhood of Brownstone Worldwide. She's one of the hosts of The Real on Parenting, and we are super honored to have her join us today for the month of August's Brownstone Living Magazine edition. She's going to be talking to us all about healthcare, mental health care, that is. We're going to be hanging out today with licensed therapist Danielle Lipkin. She's going to be talking to us about all kinds of things. And boy, do I have a list of questions for her. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring up therapist Danielle Lipkin to the Brownstone. Welcome, neighbor. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, and I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. It is a wonderful day to talk about all things mental health.
It is.
That's why we're here today. We're also here to talk about you and how you ended up deciding to have a career in mental health. So let's talk about that. As a therapist, what kind of therapy are you practicing, and what made you decide that this was going to be the career of choice for you?
Yes, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been licensed coming on 15 years. It doesn't seem that long, but it's been a minute. And the reason, what led me to getting to be in a space of wanting to help others in this realm is family. We all have a family, and our family all got stuff. And within our family, I'm pretty sure that there is a common theme of being told that what happens in our family stays in our family. So you're limited of what you can say and tell certain people, but also there was also those aspects of not addressing what was obvious with certain family members, things that were being dismissed or not even acknowledged at all.
Right.
So I knew growing up I wanted to help others. I didn't know in what way until I became older and certain life experiences happened. Then I was like, hey, you can talk to people and make money. Then, hey, let's go this route and see how it goes. And it was the best decision that I actually made. I really enjoy what I do, even 20 plus years afterwards.
Wow, that's amazing. And I often think about this. One of the things that I know, and I tell people this often, people will pick up the phone and they'll call me and they begin to spill their guts out. And I often say to them, but I'm not a therapist. I think you need to reach out to one. Then I ain't crazy. I just need somebody to talk to, XYZ. Well, what do you want me to tell you? So here's the question for you. Because I often get overwhelmed when I hear people talk about the things that they are dealing with, and you can hear it in their voice and how their emotions are ebbing and flowing. I'm curious to know, how do you handle that? Because to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what it takes to be a therapist. And so I have these ideas in my head that somebody's lying on a couch and you have this notepad and you're writing things down, and then you say, they're crazy. And then you say, well, your session is over. So how exactly does that work? And what do you, Danielle, do after the session is over and it has to come off of you?
Yeah. So with therapy, well, let's take a step back and just think about, how was mental health presented to us?
Yeah.
More times than not, it was mainstream, and the mainstream message was, you are crazy if you have to go to therapy. There was also messages in the fact, and also like people's life experiences, that it wasn't an option. You were told or obligated to go. So there wasn't any person's willingness to be like, maybe therapy could be something that I can benefit from, or it can be helpful for me. It was like, no, as a part of your probation, as a part of your parole, as a part of your domestic violence court case, because of custody, because of all these legality things, you have to do X, Y, and Z. So no, everyone is going to say, oh, this is a great experience for me to learn to talk about my feelings. No,
Got it.
it's associated with a negative experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and also combined with many, many other things.
Mm-hmm.
But the dynamic in which therapy is tied to, the message has always been negative
Yeah.
for people of color. And
Mm,
so, one thing you have to keep in mind, or even just consider, you're human, and just because you're a person of color does not mean you feel any feelings different from anyone else.
absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
all get overwhelmed, we all get happy, but we all experience our feelings in different ways. There's no right or wrong about it, how we experience it. And there
Mm-hmm.
are times when we do need to reach out for help. We do need to reach out for support. If you break
Yeah.
your foot, you're just not going to put a band-aid on it. When I say some people may,
I
but
was getting to say.
typically people go to the doctor. If you
Right,
can't
right.
see, you go into the eye doctor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you're having a hard time with your thoughts, when you're having a hard time with your feelings, I'm saying just know that that is okay. It may
Yeah.
not feel good, but it is okay, and it is normal because we're human.
Right.
And the
Right.
proper person or a professional for that is a licensed therapist.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. You guys heard it first. So let's continue on, and then I'm going to circle back to that last question because you are, as a licensed therapist, that's a lot. So we're going to come back to that question. So when you are seeking the help of a licensed therapist, what is the difference? And this is for the audience. What is the difference between a licensed therapist, a psychiatrist, and a psychologist?
Okay. So, and that's a good question too, because they all think they're the same. People come like, "Hi, doctor," and I'm like, "Thank you for the title, but no, I'm not a doctor. Those are my initials, but I'm not a doctor." But the difference is that the psychiatrist prescribes medication only.
Mm-hmm.
The psychiatrist is not concerned about your feelings, not in a rude way.
Mm,
But with their job, they don't have time to talk about your feelings.
got
The
it.
psychiatrist, for the most part, is gathering information related to what the medicine that was prescribed to you. How is it working? How is it not working? Do you have
Got
any
it.
side effects?
Mm-hmm.
No, yes, and adjustments made accordingly. That's
Oh,
it.
okay. Okay.
For a psychologist can provide therapy. They kind of can do two. They can provide therapy, but they also can do various testing. So when you hear about ADHD, when you hear about autism, when you hear
Mm-hmm.
about any cognitive delays, a
Mm-hmm.
psychologist is the person who can actually administer
Okay.
that specific type of test. But they can also provide therapy as well. As far as
Got
a
it.
licensed therapist, whether that's a licensed clinical social worker or a licensed marriage and family therapist, and now they have LPCs. I
Mm.
haven't learned the acronym for that yet, but because it's fairly new, it's very 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 new. But they
Okay.
are another additive related to the mental health field, related to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
We are the people or the individuals who are able to actually provide therapy, whether that's one-on-one, which would be individual therapy, whether that's you and your partner, which would be couples therapy, marriage
Mm-hmm.
therapy, family
Mm-hmm.
therapy.
I see. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. And so you are a marriage and family therapist. And so I'm going to call and make an appointment to see Miss Danielle. And I need help. I need support. I need whatever. And so do you do an intake? How does that go? Or do you just open up the doors? Somebody comes and sits down with you and they just pour out their heart and then they walk away and they say, oh, I feel better. Do the three different professions in mental health work together? Can you say, well, I'm going to refer you to X, Y, and Z? Is there like a connection that all three professions work together? How does that work?
And those are all great questions. And I feel that these are very helpful questions for someone who doesn't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, within my private practice, I require a consultation. I
Mm.
want to know, why are you coming to therapy? And I want you to ask your questions. Who are you? What do
Right.
you do? What
Okay.
is your experience? So
Right.
I personally provide consultations where I can get a little bit of information on what brought you to therapy, what you're looking for, and then give you a little bit of information about my experience. And so let's say, for example, you're coming to therapy for something that I don't have much experience with.
Mm-hmm.
I can let you know that versus
Okay.
just scheduling an appointment, just assuming, oh, I'm about to have therapy to address this.
Mm-hmm.
Within the, I guess you say, the 9 to 5 aspect. So if you're working for a company or facility,
Mm-hmm.
you typically just have your appointment. There is no consultation.
I see.
Your first appointment will be the assessment, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where it'll be a lot of gathering of the information to understand what brought you to therapy, your
Okay.
support, how you're functioning, what your challenges are. Um, and then from there, regardless if it's private practice or within a agency or a facility, there is always the option of being able to communicate and
Mm-hmm.
consult with the other professions. So if
I
you're
see.
seeking therapy and I make a recommendation for
Mm-hmm.
medication, given with
Okay.
your with what how you're managing,
Got
depending on
it.
the route, whether it's insurance or out of pocket, whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
yes, a referral can be made. And then ongoing communication can be done as well. There's certain legal forms that has to be signed,
Okay.
but I personally feel within the experience that I have that there should always be communication,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you are taking some type of medication for your mood or your feelings, and or let's say that you came to therapy because you have a hard time with alcoholism,
I see.
or you have a hard time with substances. You know,
Mm-hmm.
having that communication to make sure that everyone's kind of like on the same page so it can
Mm-hmm.
be ensured that it's an effective treatment for the person.
I love that. Y'all see that? See that? You learn something every time you come and hang out in the neighborhood. Listen, that was really, really good. And I think it's important because there's so many different nuances and ways of getting the help that you need. And so I know that this is the month of August, and I know that we have so many people that are dealing with a lot of things because we're coming up onto the final quarter of the year. That's number one. And then we're also starting school again, both school age children, we've got college students of all ages, and anxiety is high, especially when you're starting something new, even if it's a new grade or whatever. And the things that you dealt with internally during the summer, not being around other people, you're at home. Now you're getting ready to get into this space at school, whether it's a new environment as a college student or an older student like myself, maybe, or something like that, or just dealing with the fact that change is coming. We're
Yeah.
also dealing with the fact that we've got the 2024 election that is looming about us, and so many things that we're hearing about in the news. So let me ask you, with all of that, do you notice that your practice has a larger influx of folks that are coming in to just offload those emotions and those feelings? And for those people who are going to be reading and watching and listening to this particular broadcast, how do you handle when you get those kinds of patients who come and sit down with you?
And yes to both of those questions. But I would say this, it's not like, I would say that there is more commonality where there are people finally seeking help, right?
Mm,
But it's not because it's like, okay, it's not preventative. It's not, oh, I school has started. I noticed my stress levels are high. I don't
yeah.
want to lose it. So
Mhm,
let me go
mhm,
ahead and start taking care of myself. It
yeah.
usually is associated with something happened,
Mm,
whether that's the child or whether that's within the family or that parent, that
mhm,
where there was like, okay, I can't do it anymore.
mm,
Now I'm finally going to get the help that I need. So
mhm,
unfortunately, there's a pattern with that. Um, but my take on it, at least you're here. I'm glad
mm.
that you're
That's
here.
good. That's
Um,
good.
and In regards to, can you repeat the second question?
So the second part is what are some of the things that you could tell our audience, readers, listeners, subscribers about how they can reach out to someone like you to get the support that they need? And like you were just saying, and you kind of answered it a little bit, I think for me, is don't wait.
Right.
So yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love for you to expand on that.
Yeah, so the don't wait aspect is basically my nice way of saying you should have made an appointment like 6 months ago. You should already been
Mm,
in therapy,
okay.
but don't wait till school starts.
Hmm.
Don't wait, just call. So the different ways that you can find a therapist is you can use your insurance.
Hmm.
There are many different websites that you are able to go to. Granted, these days, which is a kind of like a good thing, you can just Google
Yeah.
therapist. If you're
Hmm.
looking for a specific type of therapist, you'll just therapist in the state of whatever that state that
Hmm.
is, in whatever city that you're looking for, um, and they will show up.
Hmm.
I always recommend looking at, if they have a website, going to their website. If they have a
Right.
bio, reading their bio,
Okay.
um, and then giving them a call.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. Sometimes we have friends who are seeking therapy themselves, and they may be able to give you some information that helps guide you a little bit
Mhm.
easier in regards to the therapist. Um, so, calling the therapist, sharing what specifically you're looking for and what you're wanting, and hopefully that appointment can be scheduled. But if you're not in the right place, if you will, or the
Mhm.
therapist is not the I guess you'll say the appropriate or the proper level to get the help that you need. So, like for
Mhm.
example, if you're struggling with addiction,
Yeah.
the therapist would not be the first go to. It would be a treatment for substances. So, being directed in the proper um, way in regard
Yeah.
or place in regards to getting your treatment.
I love that. Okay. And so so now that we've talked about here we are back to school and so forth, let's dig into our yesterday. And let's talk about, especially in our community, the stigma of mental health.
Yeah.
And when we were in the green room, we were talking about I was talking about how everybody that I knew had an uncle or auntie or cousin or somebody that was what we would call now today someone with special needs. They always were in the back room. And they usually were Big Mama's brother, the baby boy that was really sick. She wasn't putting him in a home, wasn't doing anything. He might get a plate on barbecue day with a little macaroni and cheese on the side and a glass of Kool-Aid. But you didn't see him much, right? And
Mhm.
so and of course I'm being, a little general here, but we see folks who clearly can communicate well, talk well, but it always comes down to I'm not taking so and so because this is what happened, or there was a traumatizing issue that occurred in the family. And like you said, what stays in the house, what goes on in the house stays in the house. And then our communities and our families end up with these ghosts in the closet, and everybody's trying to overcompensate for that. How do you, as a licensed therapist, African American female at that, address the issue in our community, in the Black community, of saying, we don't need therapy. I ain't crazy. I don't need that. The last time I heard somebody talk like that, the only thing that I was told was, all I need is a little Thorazine so I can go get me a check. How do we address that in our communities so that we get the help that we need? Because regardless, there are so many of us that don't mind getting therapy, but there are so many more of us that still live with that stigma of, if I get some kind of therapy at all, I must be crazy.
Yes, it's the underlying message. So first and foremost, I say, you're human, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. I
Yeah.
said, okay. We have our awesome days, we have our mediocre days, and we have them days when we need all the help.
Mm,
And then when you need all the help, does that mean you're crazy?
right.
And for some, let me say this: for some people, it is. but that's not everybody's
No,
norm. You know what I mean?
no,
We
no.
all go through things, and then I would say that we because of societal norms,
Yeah,
um, it is very difficult at times for us to acknowledge and accept what it is. And what I mean by that is life.
yeah.
You may have had a death. You may have went through a divorce. You may be a single parent. Your
Mhm.
child was sick. You mean all these things that we're dealing with day to day to
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
And we feel because we're dealing with it that we're okay. Because we made it to the next day, we're okay. Because we made it to summer break, we're okay.
Mm,
No, just because you're doing it does not mean that you're emotionally okay. Your physicality ability has nothing to do with your
yeah,
mental and your emotional. They
yeah.
don't go hand in hand.
Right.
So when you're stressed out, it's not, oh, it's good. I'm okay. That the child abuse case is closed. It's so we're good now.
Mm, wow.
And no, you're not, and they're not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So talking to someone and given certain experiences is not
Yeah,
talking to your friend.
right.
It's not talking to your pastor. It's not talking to the first wife. It's talking to someone who is licensed and has the proper education and professional experience
Yeah.
to be able to properly guide you to healing.
And so you said something that was really interesting. And I definitely want to make sure that we address this. You said just because you made it to the next day does not mean you're okay. Um, a lot of us are dealing with that, right? Um, even myself, in some instances, there are a ton. I listen. I got a laundry list of stuff, right, that I know that I deal with on a day-to-day basis or haven't really addressed, and it's been 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I'm keeping it real with myself, right? And every once in a while, it does something, it bubbles up in another experience that is familiar. But what I
Mm-hmm.
have learned how to do is I've learned how to recognize what it is so that I can address it right away and go, pause. Nope. That's because of that. And this is not the same. This is a different experience. But everybody, number one, I never said I didn't need therapy because I know I am one who could sure as heavens use it. What I hear you say is that we need to learn how to address those things as they impact us so that we can continue to be functional and to be well here so that we can be well everywhere else in our lives. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yes, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
And for you to be at a place to be aware of what you were feeling and what you were experiencing,
Oh,
basically what I call did not match with what was going on in the
oh no.
moment,
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
is great. And a lot of people don't have that. So with therapy, therapy also teaches you. It teaches you a lot about emotional functioning, the
Hmm.
functioning of the brain. The reason
Okay.
why you were triggered is because your brain remembered the emotional feeling that it felt initially and it was triggered in the present, but it
I
had
see.
a past emotional reaction.
Hmm.
So your friends are not going to tell you that, nor should they, unless
Right.
you're a therapist. But
Yeah.
you need to go to the proper person. You need to
Yeah.
go to the proper professional to get
Hmm.
help,
Yeah.
to get support. Let's just take the H word out of it, to get the proper support you need.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I like that. And so ultimately, what I'm hearing you say is it's okay for everybody to get help and to get the support that you need because life is life in the mess out of a lot of people. And
Yes.
when when we are not addressing those events as they occur, um, it kind of ends up like balled up kind of somewhere on the inside of you and it can explode. Am I correct in assuming
It
so?
will.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
can. It will.
Yeah. Okay. It will. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all
It
hear that?
will. It
Okay.
will.
Yeah.
And typically when it does, it
Mm-hmm.
usually has nothing to do with what's going on in the moment. So basically what I mean by that is it doesn't match. Your emotional reaction in that moment does not match the situation at hand. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you didn't have reason to be upset or frustrated, but you going off the top, people looking at you,
What's wrong with
what's
her? What's
wrong?
wrong with
Right?
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Looking
Yeah.
like what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
So go and get the support you need.
Mm-hmm.
Go and get the help that you need.
I
And
love
it's
that.
okay to need the help and it's okay to need the support.
Mhm. And see, I think that's also another thing too. I'm going to also say this, and it goes back to our community. A couple things. One, I'm not telling anybody my business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna go there. I'm not
Yeah.
telling anybody my business. Nobody needs to know what's going on. We've heard that before. So many of us, and so many people that I know personally as children seem to have gone through some type of traumatizing experience, whether it was abandonment, sexual assault, or being SA'd, we'll say that, or any kind of other emotional, physical, whatever type of abuse, even if it is unwarranted and people don't know that they're hurting you,
Right.
and it causes that harm to you. I would like to ask, when do you know that you need the help? Is it because somebody says, "Oh man, she," you hear this a lot. "Oh man, she crazy,"
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then someone comes to you and says, "I really think that you need to go see somebody," and then it's like, "I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to go see anybody." When is the proper time to make the decision to say, I need to go see a seek therapy for life, for
Yeah.
this? And then I have a follow-up question behind that.
Yeah. So to speak specifically in regards to past life experiences and what was called childhood,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
usually with various trauma experienced during the childhood, what the adult version of the child is experiencing is not something that has gone away. It may
Mm-hmm.
pop up every now and then, whether that's feelings, whether that's thoughts, or like, oh, I've been down, I've been feeling down before, but I usually I get out of it. It just
Right.
goes away. And the
Woo.
goes away, that's called an episode. That is a major depressive episode. Just because you got out of it does not mean that you're okay.
Mm.
Um, so the feelings, the thoughts, you've experienced them before. They're
Mm-hmm.
not new. They just become
Okay.
more frequent and they just become more difficult to get over with, to for them
Okay.
to go away. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a telltale. The other aspect is kind of what you said. You've been told, whether that's a friend, whether that's a family member, it's been mentioned to
Yeah.
you more than once,
Yep.
more than twice, from
Mm-hmm.
different people who don't necessarily even talk to each other.
Wow.
So they see something in you that
Mm-hmm.
they know that they cannot properly help with. So they're
Yeah.
directing you to the proper person to get that help and the
To get
support.
the help. And yeah. And it's funny that you say that. I think you said it well, that they cannot help with. So folks, can I say this, Danielle? I know and I may be wrong. Stop calling your friends with your drama. I landed on me. Golly. Okay, the professional Paulette is back.
Oh, and let me expound on that though. If
Okay.
if your drama consists of the same story with different people,
Yeah.
that's what I would say that your friend's not going to help with that, because
Right.
that's pattern behavior, that's conditioned functioning, and that
Mhm.
comes from a space and place that you have to emotionally survive.
Wow. Y'all, we just got schooled. You know what? I didn't even think about that, where you had to emotionally survive. Can we expand on that just a little bit? When you say emotionally survive, I'm gonna tell you what I think about. I think about a little kid or someone who's on a job that they know that they absolutely abhor, but it's a part of what they need in order for them to continue to live the life that they're living. Or as a child, this is my normal. I get up every day. This is what I do. This is where my mommy and daddy are, or wherever, or this is where the boss is. And in either one of those situations, something continues to stress me the heavens out, be it mommy and daddy arguing or whatever. And I've learned that what works is I tap dance in front of mommy and daddy and they laugh, and then the argument goes away. Or I am at work and the boss, no matter what I do, it seems like as soon as I start talking really fast, no matter if I'm talking a bunch of crap or not, that seems to soothe the savage beast in my boss. And so I do that more often, knowing full well that it's just so that I don't get yelled at for something that I don't even know that I've done right or wrong. Is that that survival that you're talking about?
Is exactly what I'm talking about. When any person is in a state of extreme emotional distress, it's kind of like the brain is like, warning, 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 if you can just imagine the red lights. And in that moment, the brain's main focus and purpose is safety.
Gotcha.
What needs to be done to keep me safe? It doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't mean that it's legal, okay? It just means in that moment, what needs to be done to where me, myself, and I is safe. So, but you gave great examples of what that looks like in kind of like in real life, because it transitions. And as we learn to have humor, as we learn to be the problem solver, as we learn to be the doer throughout life, we have certain life experiences that reinforces that.
Yeah.
So you can be the humorous person can be turned into being the life of the party. So there's some type of reward that's associated with that.
Yeah.
So then it becomes confusing because that person then does not know how to turn that off.
Wow.
And so I say that the brain is smart and dumb at the same time. It's smart in the aspect of it wants to protect the body, want to make sure you're good, but it's dumb in the aspect that when you're no longer in that environment where you had to emotionally survive, the brain doesn't catch that part. You're still running with it. You're still tap dancing. You're still supervising. Yes, because we are, as humans, we are behavioral creatures. Once you do something for so long, it becomes a habit.
It becomes a habit. Yeah.
So it becomes an aspect of your body and brain is used to tap dancing. Your body and brain is used to being the joker, the people pleaser, the problem solver. That's how you then learn to function.
Yep. I see.
Some people have roles within their career that's what they do. They're in managerial positions, or they're in a position that reinforces their functioning as a traumatized child.
My God. This is heavy. Wait a minute. So now I've got all the ideas, because now I'm thinking about all the awful supervisors and managers that I've had in my career who probably just needed a therapy session.
They probably needed a hug, or two.
Oh my goodness. So what I'm hearing you say is, and this is just, like I said, I am surmising my own roundup of what we're talking about. Number one, therapy is a necessity, period. It is not something that we should say is, I ain't crazy, I just need some Thorazine and a social security check.
Right. Because it's not addressing the sore. It's not addressing the wound. It's not addressing the problem.
Wow.
The pill does not address the problem.
Wow. Okay. And so we are walking around here, some of us stuck, even though we may have moved or grown up or started a new job or go to a new church or have new friends. Our brain has already programmed itself. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I heard you kind of say. Maybe stop me at any time. Our brain has pretty much programmed. If we've done it long enough, it becomes a habit. And our brains are functioning based upon an experience that has long been gone, but it's continuing to live it. So even though we're in these new spaces, we still live right here.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
And that's just assuming that you're not triggered. And that's a whole
Wow.
nother therapy session in itself. But yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait. I just had an aha moment. So everybody needs to have therapy so they can move with their physical bodies into the life that they desire, because that's what's holding a lot of people back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I need a hug.
If I was there, I would give you a hug. It's a virtual hug.
Girl, virtual hug. So
Because it's a lot. But the thing is, it's a lot. And it's a lot in a good way. Yeah. And it's different. And the different aspect that messes with the brain too. So people who are typically in kind of like in not so good relationships, why do they stay? Why do they get into another relationship that's not so healthy? The familiarity of it. They know how to function in that. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it healthy. But once again, what is that? Emotional survival. That's what that is. That is conditioning. So there's an aspect of there. Without another. Outside the first one, it was like, okay, now she got to do.
That's strong. Oh my God.
So it's important. It's a requirement. It's a necessity to go to therapy and do your work.
Do the work. My God. So you just said something that really struck home for me, which is why I brought out the gold fan, honey.
Okay.
Listen, even I, have habits that I'm starting to play this game with myself. I know this sounds crazy, so I'm putting my business out there. So there's this portion of my life that I'm noticing that I am stuck at, and I've been stuck at for over 20 years. Okay. Let's go here. Knowing that I'm there, and every determining factor that I thought was the factor as to why this thing is still. And I said, let me watch myself from outside of myself, because I want to see if this is really me, because there is nobody else now.
Okay.
I want to see if I'm the issue. And you just said something that is so heartfelt. I had to pick up the other fan. You said that the brain functions here because of the habit. And no matter where you may be physically, correct me if I'm wrong, because y'all pay attention now. I'm trying to go here, trying to follow the licensed therapist. This is what she does for a living. So no matter where I'm at, even if I have physically moved to another state, driving another car, working at another job, living an entirely different life, if my brain is programmed, I could break out of that programming and live a new life and this new thought process. And all of a sudden the brain says, nope, I don't know how that feels. And it pulls you back to that habit. And there you are, stuck, can't move. And you're right back in yesterday. And yesterday been gone 40 years. But you still continue to live in that because the brain recognizes how to survive in that. Am I close?
Yes. Yeah, you're making the connections, but also within that, though, even though you're in a new place, new life, new friends, new job, new dress, all the things, that's different. And with different, that can bring up some hesitation, that can bring up some anxiety, that can bring up nervousness because it's the unknown. And so for a lot of people, the healthy is unknown. What do you do with that? It sounds good. We say we need to do it. We know we need to do it. But how do you get there? And it's not, no, you don't get there comfortably. I'm just going to let you know. Okay. It's not comfortable. The same way that if you break any limbs and typically your doctor says you have to do physical therapy, those physical therapy sessions are not comfortable. It's the same thing with your emotions. It's the same thing with your mental state. Getting it to a healthy state takes work.
And how long does the work take?
A good question. I get that asked a lot of times. I explain it that it's a journey. Everybody's life experiences is their own life experience. Everybody's emotional threshold is their own emotional threshold. So I don't put time limits on when you're going to be done. No, because life still happens.
Yeah.
And we're forever, or we should be forever be in a place of learning and improving and progressing. And within all that, it takes work.
It takes work, which means you should pick up the phone and call your local licensed therapist or mental health care professional. And we could go on and on and on, because now my brain, like all these lights are going on, like, oh my God, that explains this, that explains that. What would you say to professionals, urban professionals, who are living, working, doing, parenting, going to the soccer games, trying to keep up with what's happening on the phones all at the same time, and being an influencer and not being one, and working and being a wife and what would be your suggestion to those people who clearly need to take a break? When do you know that it's okay to pick up a phone and say, listen, Danielle, I need to make an appointment? When do you?
I always say now. If you feel that everything's going good, even if all the appointments are being attended, medications being picked up, a hair appointment, nail appointment, you name it. Now. Okay. Because it goes back to, just because you're doing it doesn't mean you're okay.
That's good stuff. Y'all heard it first. She said, just because you're doing it, going through the motions of life, does not mean that you're okay.
Yes.
That is so good. Girl, you have really listened. Hold on. Wait a minute. I have to.
Again. It's a goal for me, okay?
That hit. And it's like, listen, there are so many of us who are not getting the support that we need. And then here we are. I know this is August. We're coming up on the holiday season.
Yes.
And so many of us lean heavily and really take like the entire last couple of months of the year to create this place and this space in this world, or not, and make it our business not to, because we've had a loss or something didn't work out in the past or whatever. Have you noticed that your practice picks up during this time of the year or going into that time of the year? And what are your words of encouragement for people that need to seek someone?
Yes, I will say it does peak. It peaks during when school starts. Well, I'll say a good month after school starts, because the kids then wore all their new outfits, right? So they want, and then the behaviors start coming out. But usually it's during school, when school starts, as well as during the holidays, and it kind of holds steady for the rest of the year, going into the upcoming new year, whatever year that is at that time. And then kind of like when summer hits, it's kind of like, and then everybody can somewhat breathe for a couple of months, and then it kind of starts over. But words that I would like to share is, know that something horrible or crisis or crazy does not have to happen for you to feel that you need to go to therapy, or it's finally okay to go because this event happened. We've all have had things happen in our life. And I'm pretty sure that a good amount of us have not been provided with a space to even talk about what happened to us. Without judgment, without quote unquote advice, well, you should have did, and well, you know what, and such and such went through that. The time, and like I've asked before, but the time is now. And granted, I don't know everybody, but I know we all going through it. Okay,
come on.
Outside and in home is in homing. The bills is billing, but the bank accounts are not bank accounting. So
No.
we we all need support.
Yeah. Right.
And then for some people, things can finally be settled and calm, and that's when they can finally feel their feelings. That's when they can finally think their thoughts. And then they ask themselves, well, what's wrong with me? Because everything's good. You're not good, and you haven't been good.
Wow. Woo! My goodness. Licensed therapist Danielle Lipkin has given us all something to talk about. But now I'm going to go back to that question that I originally asked. After you have done all the things for everybody else in your practice and all of that, you're taking care of family and so forth, what do you do to offload the things that you may hear during a therapy session with a patient?
I'll be, not that I haven't been honest, but I'll be open. Let me use that word.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s and it was just me and my dog, it looked very different after 30s and having a family and several dogs, because we have a whole fur family, and children and husband and grandkids. So in my 20s, I had more time to actively schedule and attend to my self-care, to my massages, to my times where I turn my phone off and no one can find me. I cannot do that these days.
Right.
Everybody can find me. So there's times where I'm on it. There's times when I'm not, when the agendas and the activities and the school and all of that is happening all at once. It does make it very difficult to be consistent. One, I have support. I've learned to accept help. For those who get it.
Yes.
Learn to accept the help. It may not be done exactly how I want to, but it's done.
Okay.
The help, but also listening to my body. Yeah. When I have a whole day of errands to do, and my headache and my migraine is like, no. Then it's like, okay, what can I order? What can be delivered? Right. And then we push to the next day, because it eventually it's going to get done regardless. And then also the aspect of me going to my own therapy. You know, people like, does a therapist go to therapy? They sure should. I go to my own therapist. I have my own village that I created for myself during the different phases of my life. Yes. Because I'm human the same way that you guys are human.
I love it. I could sit here for another 15, 20 minutes. Listen, this has been so good. And I want to thank you for taking time to come and hang out with us here in the virtual Brownstone Worldwide Studios as one of our neighbors. Again, you have brought so much to the Brownstone with your show, The Real on Parenting with Coach Kiana Shaw, but just the fact that you and I are having this conversation. And to be honest with you, I don't know anyone else but you who is in the mental health field. And to just get these questions answered for our community is so important, because if we're going to be living the Brownstone lifestyle, that means we have to take care of our mental and physical health as well. Yes. And I think you can't have one without the other. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't. I'm watching family members now who spent their entire adult lives angry and traumatized, not get the help that they need. And now it's oozing out as illness. Exactly. So I've seen it. And so you are necessary and you are needed in this community and around the world. There needs to be an entire village of folks who do nothing but talk about how much what you do is needed. And I thank you for being the one to answer the call. Because let me tell you something, I couldn't do it. No, because I would be sitting there with you with the I seriously, I wouldn't be able to do it. So you are built for this. And that is a gift. That is an angelic calling. It truly is. So let's talk about where we can find you, Danielle. We can find you on Instagram, like you were saying. And where can we find you, ma'am?
Yes, on Instagram, I'm therapist_Danielle. You can also access me via my Facebook page. And yes, it is me. It is
Okay.
just to put
Okay.
that out there. And it's Danielle Lipkin, my name, very simple and
Mhm.
sweet.
Okay. Okay.
And then from those pages, I have various links and clickables that and freebies and
Okay.
things of that nature that you will be able to access as well.
Okay. All right. And one last thing. Um, do you just take clients that are in your local area, or do you do this virtually as well?
I'm glad you asked that question because I was like,
Mhm.
how am I going to squeeze this in here? So, whenever you're having therapy, you have to have a therapist that is licensed in the state where you currently are. Where you reside is the state that the therapist has to be licensed in.
Got
So
it.
for me, I am licensed in the state of California. I am also
Mhm.
licensed in the state of Texas. So those
Okay.
are the only states that I am legally able to provide therapy.
Mhm.
So I
Got
do
it.
provide in person, but I also provide virtual as well.
I love that. I love it. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to leave the floor open to you for any last words that you would love to leave to our neighbors as we prepare for the fall season and change.
Sure. So I want to speak to that person who always has it together.
Mm,
Everyone goes to them
mm,
because they know that they will handle it. They know that they can problem solve it. If they were given a task, even if they weren't given a task, it's okay. I got you. You,
mhm,
that person,
mhm.
go to therapy. Go and have your outlet because you have your stuff. Just because you have on a pretty dress, just because you dress it up well, it does not mean that your emotions and your mental state does not need to be unloaded.
Yes.
You don't have to carry that anymore.
Mhm.
Parents, go to therapy. Even if
Yeah.
you have adult kids, go
Yes,
to
ma'am.
therapy.
I'm
Go
going.
to therapy because we've all been through things.
Yeah.
And then when you add your beautiful children, they've had their lives.
Hmm. Yeah.
Go to therapy. Go to therapy. And lastly, I wanted to share that I want to say actually August, I will be releasing my digital ebook. It's a parent guided journal. And it's really speaking to those parents who have experienced childhood trauma
Yeah.
and they currently have their own kids. It's like you said, starting to see some of the things ooze out into
Yeah.
their parenting. I tell
Mhm.
parents if it jumped out your mouth, that was that childhood trauma.
Mm.
So it's very, I would say it's very, very I would say it's a comfortable because I
Okay.
talked about the uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a comfortable, doable, friendly guide in regards to learning to become aware of your own feelings, your own thoughts, where they're
Okay.
triggered from,
Yeah.
and finding a new place of being able to communicate with your children, being able to bond with your children, and
Mhm,
just
mhm.
being aware of your own emotional reactions and making sure you're not parenting from that place.
That's good. Oh, y'all, listen. Make sure that you're not parenting from that place. My God, today. Ooh, that says a lot. That is a lesson I have learned with my two sets of children that you cannot parent from that space. That is so, so good. Y'all, this once again is licensed therapist Danielle Lipkin. She is one of the duo, the dynamic duo from Brownstone Worldwide Cityscape Radio, Brownstone Living Magazine's The Real on Parenting, which airs, of course, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the Brownstone. But also, they got their own things going on, and that is very, very clear right here. So once again, make sure that you check out Danielle Lipkin on Instagram at therapist_Danielle. And lastly, on Facebook at her name, Danielle Lipkin. And you can get all the click-throughs and links and how you can connect with her there. Danielle, thank you so much for taking time. If you can just stick around so we can hang out for a little bit after this interview. We appreciate you guys for coming out for another Brownstone's Best Business Review. This is going to go down as one of our best interviews that is necessary as we continue to live the Brownstone lifestyle every single day of our lives. Listen, so happy that you could join us today. We'll see you on the next edition of Brownstone's Best Business Review. See you around.